Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tulpa Time. I'm your host, Lyrical,
And I'm Longbow.
and he's my co-host. And today we're gonna talk about the topics of personality and narration.
Two of the kind of basic concepts or practices when you're starting off forcing. Very important, I would say.
They kind of go hand in hand, and that's why we're covering them both in the same episode.
Yeah.
So personality, it's kind of an important thing for a tulpa. It's kind of a big deal. You don't want to just have, when you create a tulpa, you don't want them to be like, hello, I am tulpa, I am life.
Yeah.
Well, you
don't want them to just be a programmed robot that does whatever you say.
If you want them to be that, that's totally cool. We shouldn't tell you what to make your tulpa.
Well, I'd argue that doesn't really make them a tulpa. It doesn't kind of have their own separate sentience and agency.
But what if they have sentience and agency, but they just sound like, hello, I am a tulpa.
Then that's totally cool.
I am not programmed for boner. Sorry.
Getting off topic.
Yeah, no, we're still on topic. Personality. It's important in a lot of ways, and there's many different things that go into creating your tulpa's personality, and there are different ways you can do it. Some people decide they want to just sit down and think of these traits and like a list of traits that you
personality
want.
traits.
Yeah, personality traits specifically that you want your tulpa to have. Like, let's say, and I believe the way I do it. It's a personal way that I do it. It's probably different. It's not the ground. It's not the...
No, none of these are like the be-all and end-all ways to do anything.
The way to create a tulpa.
These are just kind of like the basic outlines.
Like what I do personally is I give my tulpa a core personality trait.
Yeah.
I have 5 tulpa. I guess I'll just go ahead and introduce them now. I know that sounds insane, but I've been doing this for 5 years. And I have 5 tulpa. Their names are Ciara, Rosalina, Dan, Delilah, and Ava. And each of them have a core personality trait that I gave them. And then several other traits that revolve around it, almost like the core is like the sun of their personality. And the planets are like their other traits that go around it. Ciara is, her core personality trait is like regality and formalness and formality. That's like her core personality trait, and revolving around that is like kindness. She's mild-mannered. She's very stoic. She's well-tempered, 9/10, actually 99/100 of the time. And then there's Rosalina, and she was an accidental tulpa, and we'll talk about that later. Her personality, her core is like power. And I didn't create her like this. This is because I didn't create her. She was an accidental. But it just turns out that's her core, is like power and wanting to be strong, wanting to be the strongest, And around that revolves different things that come into that you would think would fit into it. Like she's always determined to be the best. She's a bit combative. She really likes
a bit hot-headed,
little bit hot-headed, little ill-tempered. And then there's Dan, and his core personality is just fucking chill. I guess would be it. He's a very chill guy. He's really relaxed.
Just friendly, easy to talk to, easy to get along with.
Really easy to talk to. Really easy to get along with. He's funny. He's a bit of a comedian, that one. He loves music. Then there's Delilah. Her core started out being... I wanted her to be really curious. And she changed a lot. She started out being really curious and really kind of nerdy. And now she's a troll. And she's very, not literally like a physically
just
a troll.
Mischievous.
She's mischievous. She likes to make jokes. She likes memes. God, she's a meme machine. And it drives me insane. And see, as you can see, and then Ava, her core is curiosity and like pureness and sweetness. And I created her like that too. And she stayed like that. She hasn't deviated much from that core yet, but she's very young. She's only like 7 months old.
Yeah. And that's one way to do it. Another way is just to kind of just come up with a bunch of traits that you kind of want a tulpa to have, and just kind of think about how all of the traits kind of combine into a whole person.
Do you want to introduce your tulpa, since I just did mine?
Yeah,
and you can tell about how you did
I'll do my tulpa. I have 2. They are Vanessa and Lammy. And the way I did that, Lammy was a bit less structured than Vanessa. With Van, as I call her, what I did was I put down a list of traits that I wanted her to have, and then I just, in my forcing sessions, kind of spoke aloud, kind of to her kind of like core being as I was visualizing it, these traits. And also I thought about and kind of constructed through kind of a passive means what I wanted her to seem like as a person from these traits. I thought about what would she do in a situation like this, how would she react, what would she say, and she just kind of naturally grew and evolved from there. With Lammy, it was a bit different. It was a bit more freeform. She just started off kind of like a blank slate. She was just a nice, amicable person, just friendly,
a little shy,
curious, shy, pretty shy.
Yeah, she's coming into her own though.
Yeah, she's still very young. She hasn't really deviated a whole lot, grown in her personality, but I've no doubt that'll happen. But yeah, that's kind of the way it can go about as a start.
Yeah.
So,
and what we're trying to say with all this, in a manner of speaking, is there are a multitude of ways to create a tulpas personality.
Yeah.
I mean, my way of creating a core personality trait and then having traits revolve around that is sort of a different way. And his, if I'm correct, you basically said you are this. This is the way you are. You are
for
passionate.
one of them.
Yeah, for one of them. And see, that's the thing. One of your tulpa was like that, and the other one was like free form, blank slate, pop.
Yeah. Like I said, there's no set way to do this, even when it comes to the same person, the same host.
Yeah.
So I guess we can just kind of talk about now how personality forcing kind of looks like. So another way to do it is to think of kind of the person you want to be around, a lot, like a good friend or someone you have seen in media and think they would be a cool person to hang out with, and you can kind of model their personality and break it down into a list of traits and think about kind of who they are as a person. Before
we end up talking about I wanted to throw a little thing in there,
Go ahead.
Some people say that when you create a tulpa based off of a character, it's like a spook tale, one of those creepypastas I told you about.
Oh, yeah.
Where people will say, if you make a tulpa based off of a character that already exists, they're going to have an identity crisis, and they're going to think, oh my god, they're going to be like Buzz Lightyear finding out he's a toy.
Yeah.
Basically, and they're going to have this moment where they have an existential crisis.
I'm not a space ranger!
And they're going to be like, oh my god, I'm not a space ranger, I'm fucking Tim Allen. Oh god.
I better jump off of stairs and break my arm off.
Yeah, they're going to have this moment of breakdown where, and see, I don't inherently believe that's true because,
no.
I've seen people who have tulpa that are based off characters. They're going to know because they're sentient. They're not going to be they're sentient beings. They're going to know that they're obviously not the corporeal version or animated version of their form.
Unless you explicitly tried to hide the fact from them, there's going to be some knowledge and awareness about it.
Then you could have a My Little Dashy situation where they're like, oh my god, I'm a cartoon.
Yeah, yeah.
And they start to freak out. But
even if that did happen, even if Tulpa was like, oh my gosh, I'm not really the person I'm based on.
Yeah.
You can just approach it in a level-headed, rational way.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, even though you're not really this person, you're still your own person.
Yeah.
And you can, grow and develop. You can be better than the person you're based on. You can, become your own person. That's great, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it ties into personality and all that because of the fact that people are just saying if you make their personality exactly like a pre-existing, let's say you've always liked Benedict Cumberbatch, and you're like, I want a tulpa of Benedict Cumberbatch. So you create this person, this tulpa down to its very finite little stubbly chin hairs. Just you create this tulpa down to make them Benedict Cumberbatch, and then they find out they're not Benedict Cumberbatch. The chances are they're going to be like, well, I kind of thought I wasn't because I live in your fucking head.
Yeah.
So I kind of had, that was the first indicator that I wasn't actually Benedict Cumberbatch.
A little kind of tips off the situation a bit.
Yeah, so that's the main point whenever people say that, because they come in and they say, like, oh god, if your tulpa's personality is this person's exactly, then they're going to have an existential crisis. I think somewhere along the line, as they gain sentience and knowledge of their self as a being, they're going to be like, well, obviously I'm not fucking Rainbow Dash because I'm not in a TV show, I'm in your fucking head.
Yeah.
Sorry for the cursing, it's just a really dumb concept that a tulpa would have, to me, an existential crisis from that. I think it's just a way of people trying to say you should make your tulpa an OC donut steel.
Yeah, you should make them unique to yourself, and I can say, maybe there's some virtue to that if that's important to you. Mm. But if it's not, then there's no reason not to base them off an existing character.
Exactly. A tulpa's form is between the host and the tulpa.
Yeah.
And no one else should have a say in it.
Yeah, it's such a personal, subjective process that, what you decide to base your tulpa on is all up to you.
And them.
And them, yeah. Not at first.
Yeah, at first when you give them a form.
As they gain sentience, then it becomes more about what they want and, kind of letting them explore and change us around.
Deviation. Always expect deviation.
Yes.
They're beings, they're consciousnesses, they're gonna change. Even if you said, like, I really want this tulpa to just stay in this form, I love this form so much. It's not really about what you want once they gain full sentience and awareness of their self. It's about what they want, and if they don't want to be that form anymore, they're gonna change.
It's just a fact.
And their personality will change too, because you don't have the same personality you did when you were like 10 years old.
Yeah,
it changed a lot,
And maybe there's some little anxiety around that, like, oh my gosh, they're gonna change, and then they're gonna hate me. They're gonna be angry. When a person changes, it's because they're growing as a person, mm-hmm. and when that happens, you can respond to this and grow yourself. Mm-hmm. You can learn from what they're going through. You can maybe there's some conflict around it, but that's fine, that's normal.
Yeah,
conflict and resolutions of it happen all the time between real people, and it's mm-hmm. It's not such a bad thing, you know. It
helps you grow. It helps your tulpa grow.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah, it helps them grow. So. And another thing, personality will come and change. It can change drastically or it can change subtly, because Ciara, when I first created her, was very impish, and she was very much a prankster.
Yeah,
and she was very, like, I'm not gonna say she was a bit of a original prankster. She was really, you get what I'm trying to say, but she changed a lot. That's a long story, but she ended up going dormant for about 6 months in my mind. She went dormant. And when she woke up, totally a different person. She was regal, she was formal, she was the woman she is now. And hasn't changed much since then, but she has grown.
Yeah.
And she has experienced things that have made her grow as a tulpa and as a person. I call them people, pretty much, because, the only thing that a tulpa lacks from being a person, in quotation marks, is a corporeal form, like a human body. And in every sense,
body,
yeah, in every sense of the word, they're a consciousness. They have their own thoughts, needs, goals, wants, loves, hates, trials, tribulations.
Yeah.
All of that, And that will build their personality. That will make it grow.
Yeah, but as a base, a lot of people, like we were talking about earlier, just start from traits, and they just kind of think about how these traits build them into a person. Maybe they have a core one, maybe they don't. Maybe they're kind of a blank slate. But it all starts from just, thinking about them as people. Mm-hmm. So,
whenever you start off creating a tulpa and you are deciding to do personality, see, there's a choice you can make. You can give them a form first and attach a personality to that. Or you can start out with just like a glowing ball of light or something to visually see where they are spatially, see where they reside spatially.
Yeah.
And then give them a personality first, and then take that personality and attach a form to it that you think suits the personality.
Yeah.
And more often than not, as your tulpa grows and they come more into their own and they start to have their own things, and they'll surprise you a lot. That's one of the most amazing things about being a tulpamancer, is when your tulpa surprises you with their actions or their words or their speech or their mannerisms, and you're like, holy crap, that came out of nowhere.
That was crazy.
I didn't make that happen. This really is another being, you know. It really cements it and drives it home. But
yeah,
as their personality develops, let's say your tulpa is a bird, and your tulpa, like, it was a bird when you created it. You've always liked crows, so your tulpa's a crow. And then one day, and it can talk, obviously, but
yeah.
And then one day it sees you're watching a TV show together, and the personality that you gave your tulpa, they find it resonates in someone or something they see on TV, and they say, I really want to be that form. I think that form is like my home.
Yeah.
I think that form suits my personality. So they'll probably want to change into it, and then it's your job as a host to reaccommodate them and try to start visualizing that form. It becomes more of a challenge when your tulpa goes through what I refer to as like a tulpa puberty almost, where they're searching for their home form.
Adult form, like one might say.
Yeah, like they're searching for that, because the way it always happened with my tulpa was their personality developed, and then they went through these different forms that they thought were close to what they felt at the time, what their personality was, like, what it represented them. And they kind of like reached maturity in quotation marks, and they found a form that they said, okay, this is what I think visually represents me as a person. And they've had, like, Ciara has had the same form for almost 4 years. She's not changed but like once or twice, and she always goes back to it. Rosalina's the same way. Dan, he's always going to be the same form.
Yeah.
And can't think of any other form that would really fit him. And then Delilah changed a lot, quite a bit, but she found a form that she thinks suits her. And then Ava, we just went through a huge, long process of trying to find her a home form, but she finally found one. And that is all about their personality, at least with my tulpa. They want a form that's going to represent their personality visually.
With my tulpa, it wasn't as drastic, switching around forms too much. Well, at least it wasn't for Vanessa. With her, she first started out as a certain form, and then she kind of drastically jumped to another form, and she's pretty much had that same form for like over 4 years now.
For like 4 years now.
And she hasn't changed it too much, but she's made subtle variations to it. She's changed the hair, she's worn different clothes, she's worn jewelry, earrings.
And maybe maybe one of the conversational episodes will actually describe our tulpa in detail, like their forms.
Yeah,
and everything that.
Once we kind of go over more in depth into our history with creating tulpas and living with them. But another thing is sometimes a tulpa will just jump to a form and want to live into it for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
They won't like consider it like what they want to be. They're just like, hey, I want to live as this for a while.
Even though it has nothing to do with their personality sometimes.
Yeah, it could be, something totally different.
Like you have a really calm tulpa with a very stoic personality that's like, I want to be Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And now you have to go through the rigmarole of trying to fucking visualize a calm, chill-ass Jim Carrey, which he never is.
Yeah. And that's, kind of its own challenge, but in order to kind of help actualize the tulpa as their own person, it's very good to do as a host. But anyway, so my second tulpa was a bit more jumpy around you with her forms. She started out as a form, and then kind of jumped to 2 different forms, which she kind of alternated between, depending kind of on her mood.
Yeah.
And now she's kind of shifted back to her first form and kind of considers it more her home form.
Yeah.
As she's kind of growing into it and getting a bit older.
As their personality grows, they will deviate. Well, I don't want to say that sounds concrete, because I'm sure somewhere out there's someone's tulpa who had the same personality and barely changed.
Yeah, and they're totally cool with it.
And and their form didn't change either. But we're just giving you anecdotal experience, our experience, And
yeah,
I think maybe our experience is maybe a little more typical. I would say,
from what we've seen in the community,
from 5 years,
this is kind of what seems to be the most common themes. But your experience will differ.
Yeah, little asterisks. Your experience may vary.
Yeah.
And personality is very important. I don't think we've talked about narration at all yet, though.
Yeah,
and we are 22 minutes in.
So after you create your tulpa's personality, after you kind of figure out what kind of person you want them to start out as, maybe you've chosen a base form for them to kind of inhabit while they're still not yet sentient, and you're still kind of working on getting them vocal and talking. Once you do that, you want to start treating them like a person, and
talking to them.
Yes, that's the most one of the most important things to do to a young tulpa.
Talk to them a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
That is what narration is.
Yeah.
It's, instead of walking around and talking to yourself, directing your inner monologue towards them.
Mm-hmm.
It's asking them questions.
That's a really good exercise too for narration. Ask them questions, and
especially open-ended questions.
Yeah, and at first when you start getting the answers for narration, those answers you get to those questions may not be words. They might be feelings.
Yes.
And that's very important. Emotional responses are usually the first response you'll get from a tulpa. Like, you're like, do you like Chinese food? And then you just wait for the response.
And you get this weird emotion that doesn't feel like it's coming from you. It's alien.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, you take a bite into a hamburger that you've had for 12 weeks straight. You've had this hamburger all the time, but then you kind of direct this feeling towards your tulpa, and you're like, hey, what do you think about this burger? And you get this weird alien response like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Get the fuck out of your mouth. I hate this. What are you doing?
It could be bad, or it could be good.
Yeah.
It could, but the important thing is this response doesn't feel like it's coming from you.
It doesn't feel like it's coming from anywhere in your brain. It's completely alien, and it will freak you it freaked me out. It freaked me out the first time it happened.
It freaks out a lot of people.
Because the first emotional response I got was a song came on the radio that I had heard about 16 or 17 times because they played it on the pop music radio station over and over, and I had no CD player in my car or any MP3 hookup. So I was going to change the station. I'm like, God, I hate this song. And before I could touch the dial, I got this overwhelming surge. Like, no, I want to hear it. It was like I could. That's the only way I could translate it.
Yeah.
Is that I wanted to hear it, and I'm like, but I don't want to hear it. That's not coming from me, and it scared me.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. It just startled me. That's a better word than scared.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy. I know everything we're talking about sounds crazy, but it's true. You will get some sort of emotional response. Most likely, that will be the first thing you get when you narrate.
Well, there's also different kinds of responses to narration. There are head pressures, kind of like, just not really like headaches, but like a feeling of pressure in your head. Just like, kind of one side of your head feels a bit tighter. There's also, kind of what's sometimes called tulpish, which is like kind of a jumbled mess of vocalizations.
Yeah, you hear a garble of words, and you have to kind of have to try and translate what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Usually, the good news is that tulpish or whatever will be accompanied by a emotion that goes with it.
Yeah.
That you can kind of use to help translate what they're trying to say.
You can kind of pick apart the intention, even though it doesn't make sense in terms of analyzing the syntax. It doesn't make a word, but you can kind of get the intention. So those are kind of like some early kind of responses to kind of watch out for when you're narrating. Head pressures, emotional responses, and like weird random vocalizations.
And then eventually, if you narrate enough and you talk to this being enough,
yes,
it will talk back.
It will
learn to speak back to you in a way that you can hear, and it will be amazing.
Yes.
It'll sound like it's coming from someone else entirely. What they say will surprise you. They'll listen till the end of their narration because it will shock you.
Yes. Tulpas learn clickbait at an early age.
Yeah, they learn clickbaiting at an early age. It's one of the key facets of forcing. You gotta learn how to clickbait early. Get those likes.
Yeah.
Let's say here's a hypothetical situation.
Right.
You're riding in the car. Obviously, no one else is in the car with you. Picture your tulpa in the passenger seat with you. Just looking out the window maybe, or listening to a song with you. And then just... You don't have to... If it feels too weird at first to talk to them out loud,
you don't
totally
have to.
Understandable. You can speak to them in your mind. It's called your mind voice.
Yeah.
You can just think in your mind, but direct it toward them, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah.
Don't just think to yourself.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in the mental space that you're talking to another being.
And you have to really feel like you're talking to another being. Not just, you have to really feel like there's someone sitting in that passenger seat that's going to answer you.
Yeah.
And
even if you have to force it a little, just try to really get into that headspace and maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important part of narration.
Mm-hmm. And when you sit there and you're driving in the car with them, turn the radio down if you need to, and just think at them like, hey, are you having a good day? How do you feel? And just ask them questions. That's the most... And people... That's really an important part, is just the questions, because that's a good way to lead them to give you a response. Now, if you feel a response that feels like it's coming from you, like did I say that? Did I just answer my own question, or did they? That's a question that a lot of people ask.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm parroting or I'm making them say something.
Yeah.
And what's important is to really try to find when it truly feels foreign to you.
Yeah, but if the thing with that is talking about parroting, like making your tulpa say something, making your tulpa respond, the way I like to see it is don't assume, but also don't doubt.
Yeah, doubt is terrible.
Yeah, like if all you're saying is, "Oh, that response came from me,"
and
that response came from me.
Let me stop you real quick, though.
Yeah.
Saying doubt is terrible makes this sound like a cult. It's not. We're just trying to say when you're creating a tulpa.
Yeah, we're going to do the cult talk now.
Yeah. We're just trying to say whenever you're creating a tulpa, it's not good. If you want to believe in this stuff and you want to have a tulpa, it's not really a good thing to doubt that they're there.
Yeah.
It's like if your parents gave birth to you and you're like, I don't believe that's my kid. I don't believe this is my kid. I don't even believe they exist.
Yeah, what would that do to a child? Now think about how it would do to a separate being.
Yeah, that's got an adult-like consciousness.
And this isn't like, saying you have to believe in the magic for it to be real. It's it's the opposite. It's kind of like from the opposite perspective. Because the mind, your thoughts will affect other things in your mind. And your tulpa will exist in your mind. Mm-hmm. So if you constantly have these thoughts in the back of your head, like, oh, they're not real, this is all just a bunch of bullshit, I'm not really doing anything, I'm just here alone, that's going to affect it. Mm-hmm. That's going to affect it.
That might be one of the reasons why some of the people that we've known who's been trying to do this for 4 years have not been able to do it.
Yeah.
It's you've gotta believe, but like you gotta.
Yeah, if you can't believe, just try not to have a negative, doubtful mindset about it.
Keep your mind open.
Just be open to it.
Keep your mind open, and you can't see a marble at the bottom of a bucket if the water's ripply.
Yeah.
You need to really focus on believing that the tulpa is there and that they're trying to talk to you, and It's not going to be easy at first. There's always going to be doubts, especially at first. There's going to be doubts like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a car driving and I'm talking to this empty seat beside me. I'm a fucking lonely loser.
Yeah, you just feel self-conscious and you start hating yourself.
But trust me on this, okay? This is an amazing experience if you just get past those doubts. And
yes.
it's just you in that car anyway. Who the hell is going to judge you?
Exactly.
And when you're alone meditating, who the hell is going to judge you if you're narrating, okay? Just really try it, and try it again.
Yeah. And that's another thing I wanted to say. When it comes to narration, you want to both do it actively and passively. We mentioned active versus passive forcing before.
This will be the last topic.
Yeah, you want to do both of them at the same time, or as you want to work it into your day. Mm-hmm. When you're sitting down to force, you want to be directing your thoughts to them while you're visualizing them in a wonderland or just their form. And when you're going about your day, you want to be constantly remembering to send thoughts their way.
It actually doesn't. Well, when you're creating,
yes,
it should be near constant. But later on, there'll be times when you don't want to keep tabs on what your tulpa's doing in the Wonderland the entire day because they have their own lives.
No, this is just a way to kind of spur them into responding, kind of spur that sentience into just kind of igniting, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I feel is very important to remember about narration, is that persistence and doing it throughout your day and actively will yield great benefits.
Yep.
So
in retrospect,
yeah, that's the last piece of advice.
This episode has been all about personality and about narration, how the two kind of coincide, and about we talked about in the beginning different ways that you can shape a tulpa's personality and sculpt it and there are many different methods, and what method you choose is your own entirely.
Yep.
And if you try one method and it doesn't work, try another method. You don't have to use the ones we use. You don't have to use the ones you see in guides. Do what works best for you. That's really important.
And if you're not sure what works for you, just try things.
Yeah.
Try things, and if something felt right, just keep doing it.
Yeah. And then we talked about how personality will deviate and it will grow and it will change. And with that, you should expect your tulpa to change too. Not necessarily just form, but just them as a person will change. We talked about narration, about how it is kind of important. It's kind of a big deal. You got to talk. You got to talk to your tulpa.
You got to talk.
You don't have to do it out loud. You can do it in your mind. If doing it out loud makes you feel like a freak, you're a freak.
But you want to keep talking. You want to keep talking till that tulpa tells you to shut up.
Yeah,
because then you did it.
And then ask questions. That's important. And try and try again. Keep doing it, and don't stop until you get a response. Don't stop till you get enough. Keep on. Sorry, my bad. And I think that will wrap up today's over-length episode of Tulpa Time.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Yeah, I'm your host, Lyrical.
And I'm Longbow.
And it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.